Hey everybody. Just a quick little warning. If you're somebody who's sort of weird about animals, then you probably don't want to watch this one because it was distressing for me, and I really don't care about animals. Not that I don't care, but some people are just like, well. So yeah, you might not want to watch this one. Basically, I used to work at a very large animal rights advocacy group. Yup, it's that one. Um, and basically, I worked there as a video editor, social media video editor, to be specific. Sorry, I feel like I'm in Inception or something because I parked really, I don't know if you can see, but I parked on a really steep hill. So it's like I'm going like, whoa, what do they say in that movie? Forget. But I was a social media video editor, and this was sort of around the time that short form video was really starting to blow up for brands. So everybody was trying to get on Facebook and Instagram, and TikTok wasn't really around as much. I think it was just starting to sort of come out of the woodwork, but back then it was still for people, doing their little, cosplay stuff. Not if there's anything wrong with that. But if you remember scrolling on your feed and seeing, it kind of went out of fashion now, but seeing like a video that was like, oh, hey, they saved this ducky from getting run over, and then a pit bull, sucked its dick or something. Then it was sort of that style of video. And I would basically, it was great, honestly, because it would take like 5 minutes to edit one of these videos that was 30 seconds long, and I would pretend that it took a week, and nobody else knew how to do it. So that's the biggest thing. The best advice I can give you, if you have a job, especially if you can do something that not a lot of other people at that place can do, pretend that it takes way longer than it does. Because the worst possible thing you can do is I can crank 10 of these out in a day. Then guess what? You're going to be cranking 10 of those out in a day for the same pay. So you've got to, I always tell people this, figure out the least amount of work you can possibly do without professional repercussions, and always be trying to figure out how to make that amount less. So using kindness, basically, yeah, just sort of finagle your way around that. So I got very good at that because I'm very charming. So I can sort of schmooze people, and they'll have no idea that I'm taking them for a ride. I've done that at jobs, almost every job that I've had. But anyway, I would edit these little videos, and typically the way that it would work is the copywriters, who are some of the dumbest people in the creative arts, you can call it that, it's not an art. But they would come up with some stupid copy, which is basically a word for words that are on the screen, or words that you are in. It's just what it says, but they call it copy so that they can feel like they're Don Draper. This makes me sick, these people, because they think, the worst part is that they think they're creative and they think that they're like artists, but really all they're doing is coming up with insidious ways to pervert art and stuff it down people's throats so that they buy crap. It is the most sickening, heinous way that you can distort the human experience of art. It's awful, and I hate it. But sadly, that is the only way that you can really make a living as an artist, especially when you're first starting out. Some people can't even do that. So anyway, I would get basically the general way that they wanted the video. It was so insane because all of the people who worked there, I don't want to say the name of the place because I don't want to get into legal trouble, but all the people who worked there were like, it was like they had been lobotomized and yet were still crazy. It was like if a lobotomy didn't work and made you even crazier, but still made you stupid and have no clue anything about reality at all. That's what these people were like. And the job, when I interviewed for the job, they had me do 3 samples of videos. So they had all the assets, they're called. They had the text that they wanted it to say. They had the video that they wanted to be in it. And all I had to do was sort of assemble it, like Taco Tuesday, right? It was like they had put the tortilla and the tomatoes and all that, and I just had to put it in make it the taco. And I'll never forget, they gave me some warning. They said, so, obviously we do a lot of pretty distressing stuff here at this organization. And I made up a bunch of crap about how, I'm a vegetarian. Not that there's anything wrong with being a vegetarian, but I think it's sickening what we do to animals. But I also said, but if I can save the life of even one animal by allowing myself to be, basically I said, if me being traumatized by this video saves even one animal's life, it's worth it to me. Bunch of crap, right? But that's what I said. And for the interview, it would be, they gave me the taco ingredients, and I'll never forget, I opened the Premiere Pro, which is the software I used to edit, and the video was of this is going to be animal people, this is going to be distressing, a baby cow getting its skull kicked in. And it was very, very graphic. And it was crazy. And I remember being like, whoa, as soon as I pressed play on the video, because it was like something that I don't even know how they get these videos. That's the other thing. Like, you would have to go on Live Leak. I don't even know if they still have that. But it was like videos that you would expect to see if you had been digging through the darknet all night, And these people just have a whole drive full of these things. They have a drive full of assets on their server that is literally, and I would come to find this out later, they have terabytes of animal abuse videos. And it's all organized. You can go by animal, so you can click pig, and then you can go electrocution, beating, strangulation. Or it was like a Jeffrey Dahmer's secretary, right? That's pretty good. That's funny. Jeffrey Dahmer's secretary had made these subcategories. And the reason they organized it like that was so that if they needed a video about, pigs getting their skull crushed, then I would be able to assemble the taco from those ingredients. And at first, I was a little concerned that it was shocking, but also, I don't know, again, I think there's so much that we don't understand about human psychology and human sexuality and, sort of just the way that our brains work and the way that our brains process that sort of thing. And it is interesting if you think about it, because we sort of evolved, to be in the jungle, right? I mean, if you look at the wolves and the squirrels and the moose that are all running around and the birds, that's us. We just sort of got just smart enough that we could build an office. And we could, have money, and we could basically, and Wikipedia, we're just barely there. That only happened very, very recently. So we're still very much wild in here, if that makes sense. So, hang on a second. I want to check and make sure. Okay, good. I'm traumatized by the phone stopping the recording the other day. And I got that guy. I want to get that Jeffrey Dahmer secretary. That was good. I want to make sure that's in there. Mosquito? Anyway, so I feel like very much psychologically it's still uncharted territory in there. So that's why I don't even know what words I would use to describe this experience, because I don't really know what I was experiencing. It was like I felt upset like, let's say the video, or, you know, the another video that I remember is there'd be these pigs. The way that they kill pigs in America is that they put them in a cage, and then they, like, I don't even know what they do. Half the time I was watching these videos, I couldn't understand what was going on. It was just, I would just see a vague animal shape going like, you know. But I think that what they do for the pigs, and I'm sorry, remember I said it was going to be distressing. So if you're still watching this and you're an animal person and you're upset by this, I warned you. But if you're not, it's going to get worse. So yeah, it would just be sort of videos like that. And I felt shocked when I saw them, especially the first few. But it was weird. It's like, if I liken it to maybe like if you have a meal, if you go to a restaurant, you get a really nice meal. And this is kind of the difference, I think, between really good food and really shitty food, like a McDonald's hamburger, versus like going and getting a nice, you know, sharing what 8-course meal at a nice place. The taste. Have you ever seen the movie Ratatouille? You know how when they eat the food and it sort of goes like bing bong, 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 and there's like a visualization that sort of takes you through the journey of the bite? That is sort of what how I sort of think of like an emotional experience. So what I described as shock upon seeing the video was really sort of like I had just bitten into a really nice, carbonara. No, I don't know, but you know what I mean. So it would be like, it would start off just feeling one way, and then you would sort of go into the middle notes and then the bass notes of the feeling. I feel like this isn't really making sense, but basically there was a lot of stuff in that shock. You know, it was like, this is disgusting. Also, I'm curious. Also, I'm a little aroused. That was in there. Because what I started to do was, because I had to experience it so much, I had to watch these videos over and over again, I would sort of start to, because it was a weird feeling. So I would ask myself, let's go step by step through this feeling and see how much of it we can articulate. That's something that I had worked in therapy. So it would start as confusion. I don't know what I'm watching. My brain's trying to make sense of what I'm watching. And yet I feel vague shock and an empathetic response, because I see what I think is a creature struggling and in pain. Then it would go to, okay, I see what's happening, and I know that I'm supposed to be upset by this. I know I'm supposed to be disgusted by this. So I'm going to have that horrified reaction, because that's what my brain knows it is supposed to do to be socially accepted. Then it would sort of fold into, you know, it was exciting. That would be folded in there. And I didn't really notice that was part of it until I started examining the feeling. But then when that clicked and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm turned on by this, then it made total sense, because then it was like that was sort of the driving force of the emotion, and everything else was sort of the fact that emotion was there. And then my brain was like, no, this cannot be what it is. Bury under all this other stuff, you know. But you know, I had to watch dozens of them per day. So it would get to the point where it was just like, oh, this one's interesting, you know, or it would sort of be like just moving on, you know, kind of going through all the stuff. Anyway, long story short, there were a few that I really liked. I think that something that we also don't understand is how the human brain interacts with the computer, I think. Because we're starting to see now the first generations of children who were on the computer since they were very, very young. And so that to me, I don't know if this is the right word, analogous, but it's like when you're looking in the computer for a very, very long time, that is sort of like a second brain. And so then your brain and the second brain start to become one brain, right? And that same thing can happen with our phone and the internet. You know, our phone, if you think about our phone, it's sort of like an extension of our consciousness. You know what I mean? It's sort of like we took part of our brain and put it in a box that's in our pocket, you know? And they function, it completes the circuit, and they function as one thing. So a lot of this other stuff is sort of muddled in there. And it's hard to parse out exactly. What is that? But basically I had a little thumb drive. And there were a couple, you know, we would get to Friday afternoon or whatever, and they would be like, hey, is there any way that you can have that ready to post on Sunday? And I'd be like, no, the only way I can do that is if I take this home with me. And they were like, okay, you know, if you don't mind. They always would say it like that, because it was like they were aware of the fact that they were terrible bosses, but they felt like if they were self-aware and they were like, oh, I'm such a shitty boss asking you to work on the weekend, right? You know, then suddenly it made it okay, you know, made them feel less bad about it. But anyway, I would bring the videos home on the hard. I would drag, you know, IMG _638, you know, pig getting crushed by the pig getting electrocuted. Put that in my hard drive. Then I would go home and I would work on the video. But I remember one night, or I guess it would be more accurate to say I don't remember one night, because at the time I've talked a lot about my alcohol abuse. A lot of times what would happen is I would drink a lot, and then it would be time to, you know, my nightly ritual of and I would sort of go through, you know, my garden variety stuff. And then I remember one night sort of just being like, because I had remembered that feeling at work, right? So I would go into the videos that I had brought home from work, and I would watch them. And it was sort of like, it was not the same arousal that would happen with the regular porn. It was like, you know, berserker mode. It was like somebody had like you know, put jumper cables on my brain, and then I was like, you know, and I wish that, again, it's not like you can just sort of ask your therapist about that. It's just because, of course, you know, I'm not supposed to like that. Or maybe I am. You know, maybe every other human being also has that and they just never talk about it. I don't know. But that's sort of why I wanted to talk about it here, because it was something that really distressed me. Because of, you know, once I sort of got into the habit of it, then it became like, you know, I was then just doing it habitually, you know, bitch. Don't know why I put that in there. I'm just trying to lighten the mood, because I know this is sort of a, you know. So anyway, I quit the job there. But I kept a lot of the videos, and I would revisit them every once in a while, you know, on special occasions, if I had a lot of time on my hands. But then I stopped drinking, and I stopped I realized this is just like any other addiction. I have to reel myself in here and have some self-control and self-discipline, which, you know, and then if you're addicted, then none of that works, and you just end up doing it again. But anyway, I was like, I have to at least try. So I sort of reeled it in, and I deleted the videos from my hard drive. Because the ones that I got at work were like, it was like you were getting pharmaceutical grade methamphetamine, you know. That was like, I don't know where they got those videos from, but that was the stuff, you know. And I forgot about it. Then I reconnected with, kind of out of the blue, somebody that I had worked with in that office who was also in the advertising department, or the social media video department. It was sort of like we considered ourselves the only two normal ones there, because everybody else was a weird freak. And she sort of reached out to me on Instagram because we hadn't talked for a few years, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're famous now. You've got you've got a lot of followers." And I was like, "Yeah, I know. Funny how that works, right? Life is so crazy." And it was like, "Oh, how you been? I'm in LA now and all this." And we started to talk, and we were sort of catching up about the old days at the Big P. And I sort of brought up the fact that I thought everybody was a freak. And I was like, I bet that they take those videos that we had to watch home and they all whack off to them, LOL, laughing emoji, And then she responded with, "Yeah, I wouldn't blame them." And then another laughing emoji, like, "Ha ha ha, he, just joking." And she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, that was so messed up. I'm just kidding." And I was like, "Oh, okay, hang on a minute." So then I said, it was like one of those JK, haha, unless moments. And the more that we started to talk about it, I held back some things, but also it was like, wow, we had both been doing the exact same thing. And that's when it started to become clear to me that something else is going on here. Maybe it is I don't know if it's necessarily just my problem, but then we were talking about it and we were like, well, does it have something to do with the fact that it's so horrible that, it's like our brain then has to sort of try to make some sense of it? I don't know. Again, I don't want to get into this psychosexual territory because I am not qualified enough. And it would be interesting to try to talk to a therapist, but half the time I talk to a therapist, they're morons, so I don't know. Anyway, it just raised a lot of questions, like, hello? Ooh. It just raised a lot of questions about what is normal, why do we feel the things that we do? What do we not? What is inside here? And then a question I've always wondered is everybody Jeffrey Dahmer? And it just takes a few things to sort of like, I had a psychology teacher once who described this sort of stuff as being like you're a glass of water. So the amount that your glass is already full is your genetic predispositions. That's what's already in the glass. And then as your life goes on and things happen to you, that is the water that gets added to the glass. And then when your glass overflows, that's when it becomes something that affects your day-to-day life. And I always thought that was very interesting because it makes a lot of sense. But at the same time, it doesn't make sense at all. And I think that just really goes to show how little we understand about human psychology, right? So yeah, I don't know. I guess that's all I really had to say. It was just sort of like a weird thing, weird part of my life. And I think that I'm normal, but also I know that I'm sort of not normal. I know that I'm sort of a special case in this world, so I don't know. But we don't know these things unless we are willing to talk about it, right? So yeah. Birds. Something I love about LA is that there's always so many birdies every season. See, I like animals. That's the thing. I love animals. I love nature. I love, ecology. So is it just one of those things where it's like your brain, the wires accidentally get crossed? Is it just a weird short circuit? And then you've just got to try to live your life and ignore it? Yeah, I love nature. And a helicopter goes by. Anyway. Okay, that's all. Just trying to end on a lighter note. Oh, that was weird. Sorry. Okay, bye.